Your kids could get free or low-cost health coverage from Medicaid or CHIP. Even if you've applied before, they may be eligible now. Kids up to age 19 are covered for checkups, vaccines, dentist visits, hospital care, and more. And if they already have Medicaid or CHIP, remember to renew every year. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to Used to Sew, a podcast about sewing machines, sewing history, and sewing culture in the past and present. I am your producer and co-host Aradia, daughter of your main host, T.R. Kelly, who is here today to talk to you about off-grid sewing machines. Mostly people-powered machines, but also some notes on off-grid electricity for sewing. Today is not about tales of sales, nor is today about a specific machine's mechanics, nor even really about history. Today is about merging all three topics into a timeless whole, people-powered sewing machines. This episode's purpose is mostly to wax rhapsodic about treadle machines, if we're being honest. TR has a bit of an electricity nerd tangent, and we do give a respectable amount of time to hand crank machines, but really, treadles are what gets us most excited. We cover TR's first treadle encounter, my first treadle machine, treadle and hand cranks' unique handling challenges, basic electrical safety for solar-powered sewing, belts, light bulbs, and the return of Stagecoach Road sewing machine to the Pacific Northwest. We also talk about the physical and philosophical joys of off-grid sewing, and even paraphrase Gandhi, which of course meant that I had to go and find the full quote for the wrap-up section. But we can't get there without listening to the episode first. So, let's go. I am audacitating.
Let's go. Let's stick around with the mics on because if the podcast is anything like my old stage show, people liked all the chatter in between the songs as much as the songs.
They really do. They love the witty banter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's like why this podcast is fun. There's witty banter. There's not just technical specs or calls to action or making you feel guilty about buying polyester leggings or whatever, You have a new sewing machine, don't be ashamed. You're somebody who has a sewing machine at all. We're not pulling the I'm more vintage than thou card here, although I have run into people like that online who are such partisans to their own machine that everybody else is just a bent pin in the sewing room of life.
Let people like things.
Yeah, just don't squash my hoggy. That's a really deep family reference there. We have made little paper airplanes called hoggies. You fly them. And if you crush somebody's hoggy before it even gets airborne, they don't get the joy of flight. So don't crush somebody's paper airplane. Let them fly it. If it crashes, let them make their own adjustments. Same with sewing machines. If somebody asks you for help or asks you for advice on a machine and you know the answer or you know where to look, help them out. But don't just walk into a room with a bunch of sewers and go, oh, that one's new. Did you get it at Walmart? I have a featherweight. Those people are out there in every hobby. Don't listen to them. Today, boy, I'm all excited because next week I'm going to meet some new people. And we have a high desert stitching. Okay, y'all know I move around a lot now. So this half of Used to Sew is coming at you from the high desert of Central Oregon, USA this week. I'm in my RV out in the middle of a sea of sagebrush. And I do have 2 sewing machines with me here. There's no electricity, but I'll tell you about that in today's episode, how we can get around that. Sewing off the grid. So here I am in Christmas Valley, and it's a tiny little place, but twice a month they have a high desert stitch rippers club that meets at the Grange Hall or something and says all sewers and crafters are welcome. Wow, okay. Well, what do I do? Do I show up with my sewing machine? Do I show up with my knitting? All these things. Is there irons? And walking into a room full of people who already know each other and have a rapport is scary, even if you're neuronormal and not an autistic cat in a dog world. But the love of textiles and sewing machines, yes, I will forge ahead. And let's hope I make it, because if I do, I'm going to talk about the podcast, and hopefully we'll get some new listeners from Central Oregon. But yeah, what machine do you show up with? It's like, I'm going to a party. What am I going to wear? I'm going to a sewing retreat thing. Which machine should I bring? And everybody has more than one. Most everybody has more than one. Some people have way more than one. So, what machine do you take to a quilt gathering? Let me tell you, it's probably not going to be a treadle. And that's one of the things I want to talk about today is sewing off grid. And there's two ways to do that. You can sew off grid people powered, no electricity at all. That's treadle machines and hand cranks. Or you can sew off grid with off-grid electricity, making your own electricity. And how does that apply to sewing machines? There's a few things you have to keep in mind about that. So we'll get to that in the second half here, the electric part. But the first half, treadle sewing machines. Now, I see these listed on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. People don't know the term treadle, 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 like you treadle it with your feet. They call it a foot push sewing machine or a pedal sewing machine. And there aren't many hand cranks here in the U.S. compared to treadles. But hand crank ones will usually say hand crank or hand turned. They'll have a handle on it. Hand cranks are more common in Europe because the houses are smaller. In the U.S., that's what most people who visit the U.S. say is everything's huge. So, yeah, our pioneers had treadle sewing machines. Put that sucker in the wagon, Pa. Actually, I think that a lot of people that moved around a lot, city tailors often had hand crank machines. So the first time I ever saw a working treadle sewing machine, like encountered it, was when I was working for Singer. Here's a little snippet of Tales of Sales here. This was not a sale. This was somebody whose sister worked at the store, and one day she and her husband brought in a treadle sewing machine in their truck. I saw this thing pull up, and I saw them get out and start unloading this out of the back, and I'm like, oh, shit. I don't know anything about that. My Aunt Ollie had one sitting in her house, but it was just to hold up guitar cases. Oh, no. What am I going to do? So they bring this thing in, and it's got the little squeaky metal wheels. They roll it over, and she says, I'm Ann. I'm Betty's sister. Betty works at the store. Okay. Betty said, you'd look at this, and it needs a new belt. Oh, shit. I don't know anything. Okay. Cool. We unfold it. I look at it. I do the stupid hat trick of put your foot on the pedal and zoom it as fast as you can, because that's what everybody wants to do. And there's no belt, so the machine isn't running. Then I give the machine a spin, the hand wheel. It seems to be turning okay. So all we need to do is put a belt on this thing. Most treadles that you will run into nowadays on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever will say needs a belt. And they think it's like some specialized thing. It's a 72-inch piece of round leather. You can use a bootlace. You can even use coaxial TV cable. You can use aquarium tubing. You can cut a strip of an inner tube, which is what a lot of people do. There's a thing called an Amish treadle belt, which is kind of a stretchy rubber with a spring section in it that's real easy to put on and off. So this is not a big deal. I've used a shoelace. You got to make sure you do that overlapping knot really nice so it'll go through everything. But all a treadle belt is you're spinning the bottom pedal with your foot. You see that big wheel going around. Don't stick your finger in there. And then the wheel on top. You got to take the motion of that lower wheel and get it up to the machine. And that's done with a simple belt. Where do you get such a thing? You're not going to find it at Joann Fabrics or your quilt store. You're probably going to have to order it online. They're about $10. Okay, now you got it. What do? They usually come with instructions. Or you can call somebody, or you can look online. But there it is, your treadle sewing machine. The belt's hooked up. It goes. Okay, now, well, how does it go? How do you keep it from spinning backwards? Radia, before I can continue my tale of this poor treadle, tell us about why you wanted a treadle. How did you get your first treadle? Why did you even think about it? Tell us.
Yes. So my first treadle was because I was living out in the woods and I was just starting to learn to sew. I was just trying to learn to do a lot of things. I was trying to garden, trying to sew, trying to have chickens, like the whole hippie homesteader wannabe thing.
Yeah.
And we built a little cabin to live in off from the main house that didn't have any power in it. Plus the power went out there, basically every other storm. The power would go out for a few days.
Yeah.
So the concept of like needing to have non-electric or at least non-grid power was really necessary. And we were, way too poor and sun deprived to want to do solar, like where we were living. Right? Did not have good access for solar, and we did not have the money to buy solar panels. So, foot powered made obvious sense if I wanted to have a sewing method that I could take down to my unpowered cabin and also have at the house when the power was out. Assuming I needed to sew during the darkness. I mean, whatever. But just the idea of redundancy.
Yeah.
Right? That was the motivation. And I did take it down to my cabin and have a sewing space down there for a bit. Very, very tiny cabin. Did not work out super great. But just the ability to go down there where there was no power and just sew anyway was really, really fantastic. And also just as a rocking, moving stim, I'm the kind of person who always has their feet moving and rocking anyway.
Yeah.
Very soothing way to interact with a machine. Just really fundamentally quite soothing to me as a person.
Yes.
And the machine itself was actually a badged Japanese electric machine.
Right.
Mid-century that I got given from my grandmother-in-law. And you were like, oh, that would be super, super easy to just convert to a treadle.
Yeah.
That's a no issue conversion. And then you can have this machine that you were given and also have it not be requiring electricity. And that was how I got my first treadle machine.
Yeah, we got that. It was a Japanese, what they call an HA1. And yours had been badged for a department store, but the plate was gone, I think. The department store plate?
I took it off because I'm hyperlexic and can't stop obsessively reading words. And the idea of reading the word brother 10,000 million times while I was trying to sew was completely distasteful. So I used a screwdriver and removed it immediately.
Oh, I understand that. You wrap a rag around there and stick pins in or whatever. But yeah, it was it was a really basic, solid, straight stitch machine copied off the 15-30 that Singer gave Japan those plans after World War II, and then many manufacturers, Brother being one of the top, just went to town with that. It was a great machine. I think, was that a tan one? It wasn't black, right?
It was kind of pink. It was kind of a tan pink. I think of it more as a dusky rose than tan.
Yes. Yeah. Rose beige.
Yeah. It was a very sweet machine. Hadn't been used at all. It was perfectly preserved ever since she had acquired it, literally in the, 60s or whatever.
Yeah, late 50s or early 60s. And it had a nice heavy hand wheel on it. It was super easy. We just put it directly in a Singer treadle stand, one of the more modern ones from the 1940s, I think. Hooked up the belt and away you went. Did you ever put an external electric light on that?
Yeah. No, I took it to college.
Wow, that's right. I remember your sewing room was pretty crowded.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the first things, though. If we go back to our rural electrification thing, the sewing machine itself didn't need to be electrified, but people right away bought the Singer Light kit, and that was all one word, Singer Light. You could put a Singer Light on your machine, and then would have the cord that went up to that receptacle in the ceiling and screwed in. So, good light while sewing, definitely a thing, which is why one of the really excellent reasons why I like to sew outside, which is another thing you can do with a treadle. Drag that sucker out on the porch, listen to the birds, and And treadling is a very wonderful, low impact exercise for those of us who are maybe older or don't get a lot of exercise at all. Maybe you have to stay home and watch the kids, but just that constant leg movement, it's worthwhile. It's like bicycling, sort of. I've always wanted to make a bicycle treadle.
Yeah, I've definitely seen little gizmo health things that are just a foot pedal. And it's like, you could hook that up to a machine and actually get some use out of it instead of just twiddling your feet. Like, that's wasted energy right there.
So when you were learning how to treadle, Raid, did you have a hard time keeping it from, quote, backlashing? How did you learn that?
The way that I dealt with that was I would have both feet on the treadle pedal. I don't know what exactly that part is called, for the foot platform. I would have my left foot much more like down near the close edge, and then my right foot much higher up at the top edge. So I had complete control over where the pedal was.
Yeah.
Like, between my 2 feet, I was covering the entire length of it. And because, like a couple of times, I get really into it going and then stop and like feel, that backlash, that jolt. And it was just like, this doesn't feel good. So I learned to use both my feet together to make sure that the pedal was like always exactly where I wanted it and never got to flip backwards. Also, I learned not to go too fast because it's very tempting, but it builds up a head of steam and then all that energy has to go somewhere when you want to stop.
That's the thing. That handle is so heavy. It's like stopping it, putting, you're going along and you put your hand up and brake the wheel, just use like your hand as a brake shoe to stop the wheel.
Yeah.
You start to see a lot of these old treadles where the big chromed edge of the hand wheel is worn off from decades of being stopped.
Yeah.
But and there's a treadle stand that I just spotted out at Stagecoach Road Sewing Machine, who is our unofficial sponsor and our good friend. And he's got all kinds of cool machine stuff to look at. But he's got a treadle stand outside. And I was looking at it when I was out there last week. And I thought, that wheel on that thing is huge. The diameter of the wheel. Now, what's that going to mean? That's going to mean it's going to go faster. Your lower wheel is turning for the amount of treadling you're doing. You're getting more diameter out of the wheel, which means the machine's going to go faster. So I did look into this, and it's like that was considered a commercial treadle stand. It just has a bigger wheel on it because the tailor wants to go fast, right? It's like, I want to see how much Mike wants for that. Speaking of Mike and Stagecoach Road Sewing Machine, I want to take us back just a little bit here. I was going to say this at the beginning. Remember 2 or 3 episodes ago, we were talking about the Singer Swing needles, 206, 306, 319.
Yeah.
Well, I just had to go get one. So I bought one from Mike.
Oh, my God. You talked yourself into it by podcasting.
He said, Mike, do you have any of these? And he happened to have a 206 and a 319W in black, which is like, ooh, ah. I mean, I was kind of hoping for the two-tone mint green, but the black is just it's like the 301. It's even more locomotive-y looking. It's got lots more chrome diddly-doos on it. So I don't have it with me right now. I'm not going to be able to get it till I go back to the other side of Oregon in a few weeks. But just to let you all know, I enable myself, not just you.
That's funny.
And then going back further to the Davis Vertical Feed episode, I did deliver the first half of that out to your house, right? Have you made any more progress with shining up that beautiful wood?
I haven't. Because I also procrastinate. It's not just you people that procrastinate. I also procrastinate.
Bring it. We didn't have the hardware. We just have all the wood. So I have to bring the hardware and the machine out, and that's going to be one of our summer projects, is putting that lovely treadle back together. And I do want to rescue your original one, just because. I think that head is still floating around. I think Mike has still got it over in his warehouse. And we'll get it back, and maybe we can make hand crank out of it.
That would be neat.
Now, let's talk about hand cranks for a minute, the other kind of people-powered machine. And hand cranks, they're small. They were invented to, well, even for someone who had a regular parlor sewing machine, now you can have a small one to take to your country house, right? You've probably seen these little dome-topped. Singer 99 was a beautiful little, it could come as a hand crank or as an electric with a little knee bar that hung down from your table. So the hand crank version, I actually have one of those that I swap between electric and hand crank depending on how I'm feeling. But sewing with a hand crank, you might think, oh my gosh, I've got to turn it with my right hand and guide the fabric with my left. Yeah, it does take a little practice, but it's not hard. And it is, I can't do it anymore because shoulder issues, but it's really fun. And now here's the best thing. It is super sweet way to teach young children how to operate a sewing machine at a very low. It's not intimidating. It's not fast.
I was literally going to say that.
Yeah. It's right there. So, or a person who's maybe shy of electricity or machinery at all, they're kind of a little neurodiverse, a little shy person, and they really want to sew. But gosh, a sewing machine is loud and fast. A hand crank is the thing. You're like, okay, where do I go buy that nowadays? Well, they're all of us vintage sewing machine people. We'll help you out, man. We can get you a hand crank, man.
I know a guy.
I know a guy. I'm looking right now at my little Singer Model 20, which is a tiny little machine. It's about the size of what? Geez, it's tiny. It weighs about a pound. There's only 26 parts in the whole thing. It was made in the early 1900s it was marketed towards a girl's first singer, so she could make doll clothes and stuff. It's a simple little thing. It's a hand crank. It makes a chain stitch. Okay, it's kind of if you want a real sewing machine, get a little 99 and have it converted to a hand crank. Not only that, it's just going to look adorable sitting on your shelf. And if you take all the thread out, and you can just sit there and crank it because it's fun to do. Okay, so those are your people-powered machine options. And if you're interested in that sort of thing, we can hook you up. Really, seriously, we can. Now let's talk about, okay, I don't want to move my body. I just want to step on a button and it goes. Zzz. I want to be electric, even out here in the desert. Okay, solar-powered sewing. Yes, you can. Nowadays, battery technology has come so far. I mean, being off-grid is not a problem. When I first got off-grid, my solar panels were made in the USA. That's how old it was. There were no LED lights or lithium batteries, and inverters were loud. They would burn up your sewing machine motor. Oh, how does that work? There's different flavors of electricity, and sewing machines and any electrical motor type things that have variable speeds especially need what's called sine wave power, S-I-N-E, pure sine. If you run a motorized thing on regular old-time inverter power, you burn up the motor. There's lots of engineering reasons why. I don't know, but I've done it. It smells bad.
Empirically, it does not work.
So the history of off-grid electricity is for nerds of a different color. But what I'm going to say now is, yes, you can pack up your little featherweight and go to the park and sew with no plugins, because there's these cool little battery box things now that you can buy. Jackery is a common brand, and there's a few others. We'll put some links in the show notes. And you buy these little power boxes, and mine is a Jackery Explorer 240, and I swear the little power box could fit in the featherweight case if the machine wasn't in there. It's that small and light.
Wow.
You can charge it up with a solar panel. You can charge it up at home. You can charge it with your car. But you charge up this little battery box, and you take it out to the park, and you plug in your sewing machine, and you sew. And the birds are tweeting, and the squirrels are chattering, and you're piecing little quilt blocks. No electricity anywhere inside, and it is fun.
That sounds really nice. I want that now.
Here's the deal. People are like, oh, well, okay, how much electricity, blah, meow, etc. Okay, a featherweight with a standard light bulb running full blast takes 60 watts. Okay, 60 watts. Like a light bulb. Now, if you change out your standard featherweight light bulb to an LED light bulb, and they do make them, again, in the show notes, I'll have that. Now, your featherweight running full blast uses 15 watts less. If you're plugged into your wall at home, you don't care. But if you're out in the woods counting every watt before you have to recharge your battery, you care.
Yeah.
So, first thing you do, change out your light. But here's another thing. If you're sewing outside, you don't need no stinking light bulb, man.
Truly. If it's a nice sunny day.
You don't need it.
Yeah.
Take it out. Just take it out or turn it off, depending on how your machine is. Just another safety thing. You know, you're not plugged into the wall, but it's still electricity. You still mess you up. If your wiring's not safe and you're plugged into your little battery box and you touch your machine and you touch the ground with your bare foot, don't sew outside barefooted. Just don't. I mean, unless you're perfectly...
Really?
Yeah. If there's a little bit of stray electricity coming out of some funky wires in your machine, if your old vintage machine, you know, it's still 120 watts coming out of your... or 120 volts coming out of your battery bank. And you could get shocked. Now, I've not done that, but...
I just would not have thought being grounded would have caused a problem. See, it feels like touching the ground means you'd be grounded. And I guess that makes you the lightning rod, doesn't it?
That makes you the lightning rod. Electricity is mindless in its search for ground. And if that's through your body, that's the easiest way. It's the way it's going to go.
I would not have thought that one of those little batteries could ground through your feet. Wow.
If it can run a sewing machine motor, it can ground through your feet. Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
There's an awful lot of power in those little boxes nowadays. Lithium battery technology is amazing. These little batteries are designed to be charged up and down like almost 1,000 times. Amazingly so. But still, it's plastic. It's electricity. It's a consumer product. To heck with that. Where can I get a hand crank? You can do that too. But sewing electrically outside, now here's one real strong caveat. I don't care how big... Okay, let me put it this way. To run an iron off-grid is going to take a lot of power. You plug your iron into that little power slot, boom, you just blew a fuse. Big time. An iron takes between 1,200 and 1,500 watts. That's, now remember, the featherweight, 45. Iron, 1,200?
Yeah.
To run a 1,200 watt load, like the load comes all at once, 1,200 watts all at once, you're going to need an inverter that's capable of 2,000 watts and a battery bank to back that up. Ironing electrically off-grid is not efficient. So pressing is best done the old-fashioned way with fire. Okay, what? I'm out in the park. I'm going to use the little barbecue grill and my flat irons. Now, I've never done this, but I have a fantasy that I'm going to. I'm going to use my sat irons on a charcoal grill in a park while I'm sewing electrically with my... Oh, this is just too weird, but I'm going to do it. So this winter I tried...
You did try to do solar.
I did.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I have 2 flat irons, and they're the kind that the little thing clicks on the top. So the iron piece can just get... You could throw it in a fire if you wanted, okay? And then you click the handle on. So anyway, it's meant to be heated up on a stove, which we used to do out when we were at the place with wood heat. But I thought, what if I heated these up with solar? Like not electricity, but actual concentrated sunlight, like, you know, with a magnifying glass. How much magnifying glass will it take to heat a 1 kilo sat iron, 2 kilos probably, to at least 400 degrees? It was a good pressing temperature. All right. So I got a magnifying Fresnel lens out of a book reading device for people with low vision. Mounted that all up, managed to get a really good concentrated... Oh, you couldn't even look at it. It was so bright. Pass a piece of paper in front of it, just burst into flame. Set the iron under it, and the iron was so dense, even when I put it in a really wind-sheltered location for maximum heat retention, it never got so hot that I couldn't touch it. It just absorbed all that energy. So I wasn't putting enough energy into the block. So the thing to do then was need more energy. So I'm going to try to find a trash.
Or like you need like a solar collector.
Right.
Yeah.
I need a bigger lens because I've seen this guy on YouTube and he uses the big Fresnel lenses out of rear projection TVs to like melt metal. It's the same thing I was doing, this tiltable lens.
This is possible.
It's possible. So it's very possible. I just didn't have a big enough energy source. And this was in Yuma, Arizona, which if it doesn't work there, it's not going to work anywhere because that's the sunniest city on Earth. Earth, not just the U.S. Earth.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yep. Look it up. I didn't believe it. Sunniest city on Earth. Not always the hottest, but one of the hottest, but definitely the sunniest.
Interesting.
So, but even though I'm there in the winter, I would expect, 30, 31 degrees north latitude, there should be enough sun there. Now, up here at, what am I at now? 44 degrees. There's no way. I mean, I'm making plenty of solar electricity right now. We've got 500 watts of panels out, soaking up the sun, feeding a big old battery. I can sew inside the house here, inside the RV, because the inverter is set up for pure sine wave, so it doesn't hurt any of the motorized fans or sewing machine or vacuum cleaner, anything with a motor in it, blender. Or I can go outside, and I'm on 30 acres here. I can go sit down under the juniper tree with my featherweight and my little battery box and sew down there and get shat upon by birds of prey. I have one tree upon this 30 acres, and all the birds of prey use that for their lunch counter.
Fun.
I'm stitching away and being pelted with squirrel parts. The way we talked about this in our electricity episode, was the way people used to press with gasoline irons and irons with charcoal inside and irons that you heat them up on stoves. Once I get my cabin built and I've got my little wood stove, then there we go. Also, the thing is, when you're off grid, you can't just do what you want when you want. You time things for your energy cycle. Oh, middle of the day is when I run the vacuum cleaner because that's a high draw appliance. So I want to run that when the panels are really cooking, the battery's full. You don't just, I think I want to, it's a hot day. I think convenience. Convenience is what you give up when you live off grid. Now, I've seen people have massive battery banks and solar panels and all that so that they can run a residential setup, meaning all the convenient appliances. Sure, she can run a press in her sewing room. He's feeding 10,000 watts, no problem. But living off grid kind of is usually a minimalist thing. How little can I get by with? Which kind of ties into our whole vibe here at Used to Sew. Well-made, small number of things that don't impact, things that aren't disposable. Back to treadle sewing machines. There's still places that make them brand new for the Amish and stuff. There's really no reason to buy a brand new one. There's millions of them out there. People give them away. They need a little oil. They'll be fine. Oh, and a belt. Don't forget that belt. $10.
Oh my God. And another thing that I love about treadling specifically is, so Mike is back in Oregon.
Yes, he is.
He came back up to Oregon recently, and we saw him at an event, and he was dressed dapper for the event. And I see him, and I, excited that he's back, and I'm talking to him like, okay, we got to get interview you for the podcast. We got to get you to actually sponsor us so that I can stop saying you're unofficially sponsoring us. Like, I'm doing the whole thing. And then he points to the shirt that he's wearing. He's wearing, this nice button-down
Western
overshirt.
Yeah.
And he's like, you recognize this? And I looked at it, and I did, because I made that shirt.
Oh, my God.
On my treadle.
Oh, my God.
15 plus years ago.
I was looking at that
and
shirt.
It looks really good on him
does.
still.
Oh,
Yeah. I made that.
Wow.
I forgot that I made him a shirt because when I made one for Brandon, which he's been wearing again recently because apparently I used to not let him wear it because I was mad about the pockets being misaligned. But now I'm fine. And so he's been wearing that again. And I'm like seeing him wear it. And then Mike is like, oh yeah, I'm wearing this shirt. And like, it looks good. Like I can tell that I made it, that it's homemade, but like it looks really like crisp. Like I don't know how he got such a good one from me.
That's so cool.
But the magic of doing it with a treadle is you look at that and it's like, first of all, I made that like 15 years ago and it still looks great and he's still wearing it. But also every one of those stitches like didn't even come from a dam. It didn't even come from refined rare earth minerals and glass and all of that. It came from my calves. It came from a meal of beans and rice. Like that's where the power to put the thread through the fabric came from. Like I just did that with my body and like he's still wearing it. And it's just for me at least, there's just sort of this endless dopamine mind trip. Yes. When I think about that like I generated that with my mind and the food that I had eaten. You know, like that's it. It's just getting even farther away from the whole system that ultimately leads to fast fashion. Like there's just the off grid of it. Like to me anyway, there's just like this philosophical joy in it too.
Absolutely. I mean, when you get a free treadle from somebody, I'll guarantee you it's over 130 years old and it probably still works fine. You know, there are ones that have been thrashed and trashed, but there are so many that are working just fine. What tool is being made today that's still going to work 150 years from now? Nothing battery powered and plastic from China.
Nah.
You know, is not.
Not the solar panels.
No, the solar panels will be dead. The batteries will be gone. All this stuff will be trash. But somebody could dig out an old sewing machine from the trash, and people do all the time, and get them working again. What a beautiful piece of machinery this is. And learning how to use one is so satisfying on a level of, yes, my body is involved with this machine. I'm making it go. I'm the power. The only other thing I get that feeling from is a bicycle.
Yes. Moving yourself down the road on the power of beans and rice. Yes.
You know, I've read in several scientific publications that the most efficient per mile thing on the planet is a human on a bicycle.
Wow.
The least amount of calories per mile's gone. Like birds, bugs, anything. You know, they figure out how the calories per insect or whatever. But humans on bicycles. And I think Mahatma Gandhi said that the sewing machine and the bicycle were two of the very few useful inventions that came out of, you know, the industrial thing. He goes, so many machines are, you know, instruments of torture, basically. You know, they're factory things. Machines came from factory mindset, you know, and a sewing machine has been a terrible tool for oppression, but it's still a useful tool. And moving into, especially the people-powered ones, this is a tool for self-expression, self-sufficiency. So many people are interested in using these now, from preppers and tradwife type people, backwoods hippies like we've been, desert rats like I am. I like to use the least amount of water, the least amount of energy. A treadle just fits my vision. However, I'm also a nerd and I like playing around with electric stuff. So in my RV, I do not have a treadle or a hand crank, but trust me, when the cabin is built, I've got several waiting to be set up. One of them's a Singer 29 UFA cobbler machine from 1870 something that fixes boots. And I got a Davis vertical feed.
Hell yeah.
And probably, what else do I want to have on treadle power? Just a plain old Singer 66. Just a regular old straight stitch. You know, and I own all this stuff. I just got to set it up. Maybe a white rotary. That's like one of my favorite treadles. Huge bobbin, massive feed dogs. Makes a cool sound. Always a factor.
Definitely. We are audiophiles. Connoisseurs of machine noises, one might say.
I think I should put that on for sleep noise, treadling, instead of cat purring.
That would be very you, yeah.
That's what I put on when I can't sleep, is a cat purring with rain, and it's like not an AI cat. You can tell if you know cats, you can tell. Oh, that's a real cat. And this person just taped this cat sleeping for like hours. Cool. The rain comes and goes in the background. Just put a little treadle sewing machine in there with that. Perfect. All right, folks, if you want to sew with your own body and don't know where to start, write to us or Google that stuff. A really good resource. I've mentioned them before, but treadleon.com. Or no, it's .net. I'll figure it out. It's a Google group full of just people-powered machine aficionados. They refer to electric machines as tailed machines. They have tails. There's just tons of information on their site about how to find, fix, and use treadle sewing machines. There's lots of other places out there, but Treadleon is the grandma of people-powered sewing machine sites. And it's a quirky, wonderful place. It really is. And I'm starting to get reacquainted with it again. I'm not posting anything. I'm just reading. But yeah, get out there and sew. Rescue a machine. Find one for free. You will. Just say, hey, anybody got an old foot-powered sewing machine they don't want? Ask your friends. Somebody's got one in their front room, their basement, their attic. Don't be afraid to get it. Mess around with it. Oil it up. See what you can do. It's okay. You're not going to break anything. It's managed to make it this far. And belts are $10. Look for them online. Stay threaded.
And there you have it. 2 options for detaching from the grid while still using a sewing machine. People-powered machines, hand cranks and treadles, are nearly indestructible and can go anywhere, anytime. Battery banks provide off-grid electricity, generated either from solar or drawn from the grid. Either way, a good battery untethers you from the wall. I think the 3 main lessons from this episode are: treadles are good for leg exercise, hand cranks are good for timid learners, and battery banks should not be used with bare feet on the bare ground. We cover the difficulties of off-grid ironing, the joy of seeing Mike return from the desert, and reference to the Gandhi quote about sewing machines. I looked into this quote for the full context, and I found a website that has all of his quotes collected. Let me read you the entire quote now. This is from his collected writings provided on the website mkgandhi.org. Link will be in the show notes. Quote, "The supreme consideration is man. The machine should not tend to make atrophied the limbs of man. Take the case of the Singer sewing machine. It is one of the few useful things ever invented, and there is a romance about the device itself. Singer saw his wife laboring over the tedious process of sewing and seaming with her own hands, and simply out of love for her, he devised the sewing machine in order to save her from unnecessary labor. He, however, saved not only her labor, but also the labor of everyone who could purchase a sewing machine." End quote. And then a little later on, quote, "The sewing machine had love at its back. The individual is one supreme consideration. The saving of labor of the individual should be the object, and the honest humanitarian consideration, and not greed, the motive. Replace greed by love, and everything will come right." End quote. I like that. I've become a bit obsessed with learning history via various podcasts covering the rapid changes made in the world during the 19th and 20th centuries. And one of the main ones is called Cool People Who Did Cool Stuff. It often focuses on labor movements. And this quote made me think about the episodes on the Luddites, specifically. I will link those episodes in the show notes. The tension between making machines that save labor and having those machines become tools of even worse labor exploitation is fascinating to study, and I think very important for us today, navigating all the technological choices at our disposal. Hopefully, you found some people-powered inspiration in today's episode. We'll be back next week with a more history-focused episode, probably. Until then, wear your shoes while sewing, and remember that we are unofficially sponsored by Stagecoach Road Vintage Sewing Machine, who do repairs and restorations. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, you can support us by sharing the podcast with your friends, and you can also support us with money at patreon.com/used2sew. Thank you for listening to us here at Used to Sew. We always welcome your additions, corrections, and feedback in general. Please reach out to us via email at usedtosew@gmail.com. Used to Sew is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.